we'll keep things to the agenda. So obviously this is our team mastery workshop, and it's one of the series. These are our sort of 6 workshops we run every quarter, and it's really about building, retaining, motivating a team, which is what we need to do in order to have a successful business and eventually a business that works without us. The only thing that is going to run your business while you're not there is other people and systems and processes that you set up. So I suppose the first thing always is to think about what is it that what would be a key thing for you to get out of today. So Megan, what's around team, what do you feel that you need that sort of extra helping hand with?
Just getting sort of everyone working together, and just learning about setting up what a good sort of team structure is, sort of help in the future.
Yep.
And sort of where everyone fits in. I guess like some motivating members as well.
Yeah. Okay. Working together and motivation. Cool. Gary, what about you?
I like the whole motivation thing, but I'm tired of motivating people. The 2 things I'd say are, what are they now? I forgot. Oh crap. I've just gone blank. Oh, what a day it's been. Oh, working on your own, talking to plaster on the wall. It's just not fun. To be more organized is the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to be more tougher. So be more, and these 2 kind of go together. And maybe tough's not the right word, but be more forward. Like, I'm going to try employ someone soon, but I need to be organized first. And in that organization, I can sort of have the authority of being a boss and be like walking in that role properly and sort of, walking in authority and be firm but fair. So to be firm but fair, but to also be organized. And I'm getting on Monday soon, monday.com, so I can have the like the basic level of CRM in place so that I get used to it now, so that when I do take the first employee on soon, there will be a CRM set up and ready to running, and I know how to use it already before they come in, so I don't look like a knobhead who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Is that yours, Kevin?
Yes, it's a
bit of a jingle.
Phone. Be somebody trying to sell me something that I don't want.
Always from Bangladesh or something.
So I mean, I think that's an interesting one. The being tougher, because there is a feeling that we have to be tough, or we're not tough enough. But I suppose the interesting way to think about it is, you both played Monopoly. Yeah. So if you're playing a game of Monopoly and somebody cheats, or does it wrong, do you find that you have to be tough when you play Monopoly to keep people to play in the games to the rules of Monopoly?
Around my friends, I have to. Otherwise, it's just a big con, the whole thing. I've got to be like, "Oi, what are you doing? Can't nick from the bank. I'm just borrowing it." No.
But do you feel that you have? Do you, in your sense of I have to be tougher? Do you feel like you're being really tough when you play a game of Monopoly?
No, Monopoly's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. But in order to be fun, you've still got to abide by the rules. You've still got to play the game the way the game is set up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would hope that you're not feeling like, well, when I play Monopoly, I feel like I really have to be tough on people, and I have to shout at them. I have to, call them on things all the time. Yes, you have to remind people that the rules are there and you're not allowed to do certain things, but it should never feel like I'm having to be tough and it's hard work to do it. if let's imagine you were playing Monopoly with a group of chimpanzees, then yes, I could see that it would be, that would be really hard work, or some 3-year-olds.
That'd be funny though.
Yeah, well, for a short period of time, but if you were playing seriously, then it would be more hard work.
Yeah,
So it comes back to that, if you've got the right people, if you're not employing chimps and 3-year-olds, and you treat your business in the same way as you treat a board game, then it shouldn't be that much of a problem. It should be relatively easy. Yes, you still need to remind people of the rules and what the game is all about, but you should never feel like it's being tough. So if any time you feel you're having to do something that is difficult and things you don't want to do, so I don't really want to be tough, and you feel like I have to be tough, then you've got to look at it and say, perhaps I'm playing the game or doing this the wrong way. And then you've got to have an open mind of, is there a better way to play this? So the first thing always is to come back to our formula for success. B times do equals have. So we've always said the number one factor with this is you've got to have clarity around your dreams and your goals, and then you need to build on your attitude, knowledge, and skills, and then you do the right things. So within this, you've got to be really clear what a great team looks like. Because if you can't visualize it, if you can't see it in your own mind, and you can't relate what's happening to what great looks like, then it is going to go wrong. So think about, what is your goal for your team? How do you want them to behave? How do you want them to be acting? What is the communication going to be like between you and this great team? And you've got to, you've almost got to sort of visualize it and write it down. We talk about the vision statement for the company, and envision future. What does my company look like at a point in time in the future? If you can't visualize your own company, then think about other people's companies. Is there a company out there that you admire? You think you might be Tesla, or admire Tesla, or I admire Google, or it might be a competitor's company, or a supplier's company, or a friend's company. So if you can't visualize it yourself, then look around you. And I often go, when I go into hotels and restaurants, and see a team that are working really well, or even individuals that are working really well, that to me is really great, because I go, oh yeah, wouldn't it be great to have somebody like you? Wouldn't it be great to have a team of people that have got your attitude, your abilities, what you do? Because one of the key things is, when you're building an organization, building a team, is you are the talent scout. Okay, you're like a football coach that's out there, looking for the next superstar. Where are you going to find them? Okay, you could pay, 150 million for a Ronaldo, if you're a size of a company that can afford 150 million pound Ronaldo, or you want to find that snotty kid on the park bench, where you see the talent in them, and then you bring that talent on and turn them into the next Ronaldo. Okay, both are ways to go. One takes time, one takes money. And for most of us, we don't have the money to spend on the superstars. Therefore, we've got to have the ability to spot them and then, channel that and create it. So Megan, what would be sort of 3 key things that you would see in your perfect team? How your perfect team would be working?
Hardworking.
Hardworking, yeah.
Getting on with each other. And just having a bit of like responsibility, rather than a kind of, oh, that's not my job. It's that when something needs doing and it's not clear whose job it is, rather than just back in the office going, that's not my job. You know, have a team of enough members that say, I'll do that. That needs doing. So yeah, but it's difficult because no one's going to care about your business as much as you do.
That's not always true. I mean, you know, I suppose that goes a little bit on to my next slide is your beliefs. That, you know, we all have positive beliefs and we have negative beliefs. So if you believe that no one's going to, you know, be as passionate about your business as you, well, that's a belief. Is it helping you or is it hindering you?
Hindering.
Yeah, and you could argue that's a bit of a limiting belief, isn't it? If you believe that no one cares, you know. Now, the key to it is why would they care as much as you? So I know people that work in charities, you know, that are amazingly passionate about the charity. They don't own the charity. Yeah, there's people in organisations that are passionate about the business, probably more so than the business owner. You know, I've worked in companies where that's definitely been the truth. You know, we loved the business, we wanted to succeed, we didn't own it. Okay, so if you believe that there's no one out there that cares as much about your business as you, then that's all you're going to find. Yeah, if you believe there are people out there that could love your business as much as you, yeah, then at least you stand a chance of finding them. So you just got to be watching the things that you say to yourself, you know, about the people that you bring on. And some of this is, you know, the 5 negatives belief about your team. Now, Gary, I know you've got a few negative beliefs around, you know, employees. Can you give me your top 5?
Top 5. Well, like Megan said about, and I kind of agree with it, and I agree with the concept, but at the same time, I'm not in that sort of bracket, is that they will never love your company as much as you do. So they'll never be as passionate about the work. So like with me, I like to have a good finish, and like Brad, who had skills, was just a perfectly average finish. I like to produce something slightly higher and a cleaner finish all around, like tidying up in that, but he was just not. So I found myself, even though he was 44 and got loads of skill levels, I still found myself going around behind him and just sharpening up the finish, basically. So the quality was not in line with my quality. Being on time, punctual, just that was just life. I don't know, being motivated. I'm motivated to get, because I know I'm earning the money, whereas they're just earning their wages, and I'm earning the profits. So I'm motivated to make some money, whereas they're not motivated by making 80 quid cash a day or £100 a day or something like that. So it was the motivation. It was quite a struggle. But then it was just my general character. I don't swear. I don't do racist jokes or sexist jokes. I'm quite neutral on site, and it's always to try be a good witness to the client so that they look at me and think, oh, actually, he's a nice guy. But then you get some other people and their characters, and especially in my industry, building industry, is sort of a very unsavory lot. And they are just, if there's not swear words in their conversation, they don't understand. Like with Rad, I know that if I had swore at him more, he would have got on with it. But I didn't swear. That was just a part of his language, his culture. And I don't want to bring myself to that. So there was a bit of a cultural difference there as well. There's quite a whole lot in there.
So it goes back to that, you know, if we've got this sort of negative belief that all, you know, builders, all people in this industry, you know, are swearers, yeah, then what can happen is then we just don't bother looking. Whereas if the belief is, you know, okay, a lot of them are, I've got to find the ones that aren't. Because if I am not that person, I've proven there can be one person there must be a lot of people out there that are unhappy working in, you know, that industry where that's the norm. So I've got to go and find it and almost liberate them from where they are, you know, because they're going to be unhappy working in that environment, and come and work in an environment that actually does care, you know, and lives to the values that you have. So while you'll have that negative belief, what you've got to change the way of thinking is thinking that all people are like that, and then flip it and say, well, if that's what I don't want, what is it that I do want? What's the positive thing that I'm looking for? And do I believe that there are some people out there that can be like that? Because if the real answer is no, there isn't, there's nobody like that, then you're never going to build a team. So don't even bother trying. You know, put your energy somewhere else. Because unless you believe that you can find enough people to build a business that are like you, then you're not going to sort of go anywhere. So it's almost like if you were the leader of a cult, you know, with some really strange, wacky views, you don't go around believing that no one else thinks like you. You know, you go around there convinced that there are people like you, and then you find them, you attract them, you bring them towards, you know, your way of thinking. If you think about it, that's how religion works. You know, a clear set of beliefs, a clear set of values that a certain number of people believe in, that attracts more people like them. And that's all we're trying to do when we're building a team, is if we can be really, really clear in our visualization of the type of team that we're trying to build, who we want to bring on board, then we've got the best chances of success. Not saying it's guaranteed, but you do have to work at it, but you've got a good chance of actually recognizing the person when they arrive. So if you catch yourself with a negative belief about team members, you've got to catch yourself and then flip it round into, okay, well, that's not what I don't want that. So what is it that I do want? What am I really looking for in those team members? And the key really to think about it is, you know, you get the team you deserve. So if you're only attracting dross, if you're only attracting people who turn up late, don't do a good job, that's because that's the type of people you're attracting, or you're allowing to come through, that you're in a way so desperate to get a bum on a seat that you put up with all the negative bits. And experience has shown, you know, Gary, you've seen this at firsthand, that you do that and it's never going to last. It'll get you out of a short-term fix, perhaps, but you've got to be thinking about, is this person I'm taking on okay for now, but are they going to be okay for 5 years' time? You know, have they got the potential, the growth potential to grow with me, in this business? Because, most of our businesses are still quite small, they're still quite immature, and we need people on board that will grow with that. Okay, so we've got to become, if we want better people on board, we've got to become better people ourselves. So then we've got to think, going back to the management side of, where, Gary, your point there was, it's sometimes it feels like hard work. I think one of your words was, I'm fed up with having to motivate people. Okay, the key to this is you can't directly motivate anybody. People are either motivated or they're not motivated. And I would say, generally speaking, 99% of the time, everybody on this planet is a motivated person around something. They have the ability to be excited, to get up and do things. It's just that sometimes they don't manage to do that within our own, within our business. So I think the first thing thing we've got to recognise is there are people that live their life above the line, and there are people that live their life below the line. People live below the line are generally motivated away from pain. Okay, so if things are painful, they get up and they move away from it. So it's what I would call childlike behaviour. So again, generally speaking, kids don't do things they don't want to do. If you can imagine that as a child, you know, that you were being told by your parent to do something you didn't want to do, what would you do?
Cry.
Cry. Yeah, you'd have a strop, wouldn't you? Yeah, because that's what kids do. They haven't got the social skills or the ability to think about what their, you know, the consequences of their behaviour. They run purely on emotion, which is when they're asked to do something they don't want to do, you know, they go, oh, I don't want to do that, and then, you know, have a strop about it. Or, you know, and we also say these people live in blame, excuses, and denial. Okay, so if you start to see childlike behaviour, yeah, then that is a bit of a challenge. Now, as we grow up, we move from this below the line thinking into an above the line thinking. So here we're starting to take responsibility, accountability, and ownership. Now, if you imagine that as a teenager, you know, as a teenager, we still have the ability to have a strop, don't we? Sometimes more than kids, because we're actually now more aware of what's going on, and there's a lot more hormonal change going on within us, because ultimately we're actually becoming an adult. So if we're building a team full of children, yeah, then we have to manage and direct these people. You know, we've got to be prepared that we're going to get tantrums, we're going to get people throwing their toys out of the pram, you know, because these people are very short-term thinking, they're very looking after themselves, their self-interest. If we take on adults, yeah, these are easy to manage because all we need to do is lead and delegate to them. This is what I want you to do. Get on and do it. Now, you know, as owners of our own businesses, as senior directors in our own business, that we've grown up to take on this ownership, accountability, responsibility, and therefore we're generally easily led ourselves. Yeah. If we expect up here and we've got people that are down here, then we've got this big mismatch. And the problem is, you know, most of the time we're neither here all the time or here all the time. What we are is somewhere in the middle. So the people that we take on, we've got to think ourselves more as their coach rather than their boss. Okay, my job is to coach my team to perform as I want them to perform. Now, sometimes that means I do have to manage and direct them and tell them to, you know, wipe their nose and, you know, grow up. Sometimes it's just, I want you to do this, and they get on and do it. Often it's, sometimes they get a little bit lost, as a teenager gets lost in the way they're thinking, the way they're acting. So we've got to have the ability to see it and then have the time and headspace to actually deal with it. If I want to spend more time up here, I need to recruit more people like this. Yeah. If I can only afford people down here, then I've got to be prepared to put a bit more time into them. Yeah. Because it's saving me money in the long run. So when you take on apprentices, you know, you've got to be prepared they're going to take far more management than if you take on somebody that's got 20 years experience. So you've got to start thinking, you know, down to the individual who we're taking on and what we're trying to get them to do. Yeah, and are they good enough for me just to lead you? Yeah. Have I taken on somebody I've just got to get on and manage you, or are you somewhere between where I now need to help you to move forward and actually be, you know, be your coach? Any questions on that? Does that?
No, it's quite straightforward, and I think that kind of goes back to that time and money thing, where you can find the raw talent and develop the skills, but you've got to put the time into it, or you can, on the other side, have the money and just pay for the person with the skills already. So for me, the bottom of that would be the manager and director. That's like the raw talent, and at the top of that is the highly skilled professional. So it's kind of going from one to the other. No, it's good.
Yeah. But it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you've got somebody that you're paying a lot of money for, still got this behavior.
I was going to say, it also, this is character, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what you've got to find out through your interview process. When you recruit people, is it's early on, what sort of person have I got? Have I got somebody up here or somebody down here? You can find people up here and you pay peanuts to. Yeah, likewise, you can find people up here that have got, the most childlike attitude possible.
Do you think it's easy to tell at the interview stage what kind of person they are?
I think easy is not the right word, Megan. Nothing's easy. But if you go into the interview process with your eyes open to this, and you ask enough questions, and that's why you do the interview process, because you're trying to find where people are and look at their background, then I think you can see it. It's not, sometimes you just don't know. I've got no idea because I don't have enough track record. But certainly the more somebody's been around the block, the more chance you'll be able to see essences of that behavior over their career. Okay, and don't forget that up here, adult behavior is self-awareness. These people are far more self-aware. These people are not self-aware. Okay, so you're looking for aware. So if somebody turns around and says, "I'm brilliant, I'm fantastic, I've never made a mistake in my life, everything I do is brilliant," how much self-awareness is that really showing? None. Because if you looked at the most talented person ever, they'd never say that about themselves.
No, I've never heard Richard Branson say something like that.
No.
Maybe Alan Sugar, but not quite. He's just ballsy though, isn't he?
But the other thing is that sometimes you've just got that, and that's why we give people, a 3-month trial. Okay, that's fine. I'm taking you based on what you've said, and the interview. So now I'm going to put it to test. And it's more of a case of at the end of that 3 months, I see more problems where people give people the benefit of the doubt. Well, you haven't shown above the line behavior. You haven't shown me that, you have this sort of, ability to give me what you want. So but I can't replace you because now I've invested probably 6 months into you because of 3 months recruiting you and 3 months of your time. And the thought of losing you is far more painful than the thought of keeping you. And that's where people generally go wrong, is because they keep people they know that are inherently bad, and they're just postponing the pain until sometime in the future.
You not think you could invest a bit more time and put them on a course or something?
That's often the way. If you've really put the time and effort into that 3-month induction period, then you're giving them the best chance of success. If you put no effort into them in 3 months, then you're going to get what you get.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Relating to interview scenario, so what kind of question, or like, not a role play, what could I do in this in an interview as a question to get to see an answer that would make me figure out which one they are, or which of any of those they are? I just can't think of a question that I'd ask someone to then be able to see what like their character is.
Okay, so
What I ask them,
Uh,
that's PC and non-offensive.
so that's a great question, Gary. So what question would you ask if you were interviewing me, you know, to show that I can take ownership of the situation and hold myself accountable and responsible for those actions?
So it's more than just what experience do you have. That's too broad, too vague. It would be something a bit more deeper, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say, no, you tell me.
So you want to know whether I'm able to take ownership of the situation.
Okay. So I'm a property maintenance guy looking to expand, and I have a lot of private customers that expect a high standard of finish from me. So if you were to be painting the wall and near the end of the day, you're tired and you accidentally dropped us one little paint splat on a carpet, water-based paint, so it can come out easily enough. If it was oil-based, I'd be crying myself. Why wasn't it covered? Why wasn't the carpet covered if it was oil-based? But water-based, white on the carpet, what are you going to do about it? End of the day, you've almost packed up your 5 to 4. What are you going to do? Now, I know that the answers are straight up. I've led that person down the pathway of that.
Yeah.
I know the answer is clean it up. But what would I ask to make it a bit more sort of vague, to make them have to think in that scenario?
Megan, any thoughts?
I'd probably, let's say they had like I don't know if they put on their CV or whatever, experience at this place to high standard. You could maybe ask them to give you like an example, like of how they've finished to a high standard. Right, like people, like when we recruited someone, they explained, like they said that they did certain things in their other job. They didn't really give any like specific examples, so you could maybe ask them to give specific examples in terms of how to make that question make them think themselves.
That's actually a very good answer.
Yeah,
you said, because I would just throw them out into these role play parts, but line them so down into the part of what you're going to do about it. And the answer is quite easy, but it's more the case of go through, like what you just said has made me think of, go actually through their CV with them and say, oh, it says here you're a man of integrity. Give me an example of what that looks like and what you've done.
Yeah, because then it separates those who actually have written what they believe about themselves and those who just sort of thought, oh, what's a good thing to put on my CV? Because and I was going to say, yeah.
I mean, I think your conclusion there is right. In that interview, if you're trying to get to that, what you're looking for are examples in your past.
Another thing is, by I know you said you're kind of setting them up for like the correct answer. Even though they're, be honest, you're still setting a standard of how you want things to be finished, so they know right from the start. Oh, like if they then came across that situation, they'd think, what should I do? Or in the interview, you said that I said that I would clear this up, so that's the kind of standard that I set, so I should probably live up to that.
I would love to think that, Megan, but if you've ever been to an interview, about 24 hours after the interview, how much can you remember of the questions you were asked in the interview?
Yeah, no, it's not like the specific question, it's the standard you set. It kind of makes them. I don't know.
The standard set is you've got to continue to do that. If you've just what I said in the interview, you expect somebody to remember that and then apply. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and like, yeah, as you go along, sort of get them to think about it like as they go along. When I did a weekend's work at a yard, just not paid or anything, but the rider that's running the yard, instead of saying, oh, don't put this rug on this horse, it's too hot, they like saying, asking them what the temperature is, what is the rug they put on, why have you put that rug on, what's the weather going to do in 2 months time, like making them think about what they've done and like why why it's the wrong decision. It was a bit patronizing, but it's sort of everything they did wrong, she made them she like asked them questions about what they did and saying, was that a good decision and stuff.
And then that is that sort of distinction between managing, which is I just tell you what to do, to put that rug on, and coaching, which is, so what do you think? What are the options here? What do you think? So getting people to think about their actions.
Yeah. And then the
same with children. Children can't think about their actions because their brain isn't function enough. Yeah. The teen is where that conversion is happening. So you're trying to get the teenager to start thinking about it. The adult should already know. They've lived the experience, so they should already be aware of, these are my options and this is what I want to do. Is that okay? So we're trying to, in that interview process, we're trying to find questions that give me some examples of the behaviors that I'm looking for, the attitude that I'm looking for. Rather, I think the role playing has a place, but as you said, it's very difficult in a role play to give enough information that the answer isn't obvious. And they go, well, of course I would do this. Okay, well, I want to see some experience. So, give me an example of where a job has gone wrong and what you've done about it. Well, I didn't do anything, because somebody else is always there to mop up my mess. Oh yeah, there was this job once, and we poured paint all over the thing. We were due to go at 5:30, and everyone else wanted to go, and I wanted to stay behind to make sure it was done perfectly.
The worst one I ever had. Oh, sorry, mate, you carry on.
So I ask you that question, because think about situation again. You can think about situations that happened to you or you've heard about. So what was Gary? What was the worst situation that happened to you around a job, and what did you do to fix it?
It's probably not the worst in the grand scheme of things. It could have been worse. But at 2 minutes to 4, me and 3 of my subcontracted laborers on a site house rip out, 2 minutes to 4, one of the laborers comes up and says, oh, I think I dropped my keys and I think they're in the skip, which the skip was full, like to the top and over, and it was of a whole house being ripped out. So there was carpets, there was ceilings ripped down, there was loads of that old horse and whatever the plaster in the skip. And he's like, my keys are in the skip. At 2 minutes to 4, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at the other two. They're just standing there. So I said, can we all just get on it and just do it straight away? And I was like, there's no other way around this. Just start rummaging. And there's 4 lads just shuffling stuff around in the skip. Thank God it was near the top. We were there 10 minutes, but the 4 of us, and it was the case of, you 2 aren't leaving till we've all found those keys. So let's just get on with it. No moaning, let's crack on. And they all just got on with it. No one moaned. They're like, oh, you muppet. They just called him a muppet, but that was it. They were moaning about helping, and we just got on with it. So yeah, it took about 10 minutes, but it was a 8 yarder. It was like the big builder's site.
But that's what you're trying to ask. I want to see some examples in your past life where you've shown these attributes, and if you bring in people who haven't got experience in your industry, or this is a new role they're coming into, then look at outside. Certainly where you're taking on school leavers. Okay, so give me some examples at school where you took responsibility over and above.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to get out through those questions with people. Okay, I'm trying to see from past
You want an example?
behaviors, have you got the attitude and the attributes that are going to make you a great employee? I don't need you to be the finished article, but are you coachable? Are you trainable? You know, can I get you? Yeah, am I going to be telling you every single time, or can I tell you once and then you get it and then move on? Okay, so from this, identify, you know, what sort of people have you got, understand that they do move up and down here, and then, you know, ideally you want people that are coachable, you know, and ultimately you can then delegate to and lead. And if they're not, then you've either got to do something about it, or you're not an organization that has the ability to bring, you know, basic ones up to the level you need. You've got to start a little bit further up. Okay.
Just a quick question with that. So, whoa, here you go. So I've got like 30 CVs, or I used to have like 30 CVs. And the reason why is because every single CV would be tweaked to the job. So I guess that's not right. And what would I need to be looking for to just look to see through it, to know that it's a load of tosh, basically?
What a CV?
Because CV.
Okay.
Job is maintenance, skilled maintenance laborer. Here's the CV. What would I look at that? What would be like clear signs that this is a load of made up nonsense?
Nothing. Assume it's a load of made up nonsense. Don't look at a CV.
Oh, hold on. Don't I need to look at CVs?
No, why?
Or is that a thing of the past?
Look, there's a time to look at a
Okay.
CV.
Okay.
Okay, so you know, if you go back to recruiting, you put an exciting advert out that is going to attract the best talent and the most number of people possible to your advert.
Mhm.
Once they've applied, yeah, it's a deselection process. They're going to do the work, so they're now going to deselect themselves. So the first thing is you send them something that says, please do this simple exercise, you know, which in your mind is saying, can you read simple instructions, and do you want this job enough to actually do something for it? Okay, because that's showing a bit of this taking responsibility and saying, look, you know, I should give you enough information to know whether this is the sort of job you want. If it is, I'm expecting you to do a little bit of work for that. Now, it could be, you know, give me in 180 words, tell me why you're looking to move, you know, into this line of work, or why you like KJV. Oh shit, you know, well, perhaps I better look at you on the website. Perhaps I better find out what you're all about.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll deselect half the people straight away. Okay, then from that you do a group interview on Zoom, and you sell the company to them, and the job to them, and the position to them, and then you ask them, you know, right, you've got 5 minutes, give me a brief overview of who you are and why you want to come and work for me. Okay, don't need to know your CV. I don't need to, yeah, you've got to allow for the fact that, you know, people don't want to go and work for somebody where they can't do the job. Okay, no one's going to. Yeah, I don't go for jobs for brain surgeons. Okay, if I think I can do the job, I'll apply for it. So at this stage, all we're looking for is attitude. I want the best people with the best attitude, you know, to actually sit down and talk to, and then interview properly. Okay, so I've done the sales pitch, you know, to the Zoom, because we used to do it face to face. We now do it on Zoom. Yeah, I've had 5 minutes of each person talking a bit about themselves, and from that, I should now to be able to select my shortlist. At that
Yeah.
point, I would then look at a CV and go, right, okay, so attitude-wise, you fit. I think I could work with you. Now let's look at your CV and see if you've got the skills.
Okay.
Because all the CV is going to tell you is the skills they've got, the experience they've got. That's all. You know, it'll come up with, I'm this type of person, I'm that type, but it's all bollocks.
Okay.
Yeah, it's purely a case of, you know, what work experience have you got, and is it relevant to the role? Because I used to do, yeah, I used to go through 50 CVs trying to narrow it down to, you know, a dozen people to interview, and it was like, you know, oh, do I like the type font? Yes. Do I like the, you know, the decision making process was just ridiculous. So don't look at a CV until pretty much the end, until you're sitting in front of them, and then you can look at their CV and go, right, okay, so you've got this, all this, you've got no experience in painting and decorating. You know, why have you come for the job? Because I really want to do this, and I've been putting myself on a night school course for the past 6 months, and you know, I've been doing my mum and dad's house, and you know, I get the bus. You know, I've got the attitude. Okay, I might not have the experience, but I've got the attitude that, yeah, I'm willing to learn. As opposed to somebody who says, yeah, I've been doing this for 50 years. You know, I know everything about painting and decorating, mate. So yeah, assume CVs are all fictitious, made up, and do it as a deselection process, and then bring the CVs in at the end, because that gives you something to talk about when you interview them.
In the groups, so I've got first things first. So this is the attitude assessment section, which is like the first stages. So the first one is put a nice fluffy advert online on Indeed. Doesn't have to be specifics, doesn't have to be specific, but put an advert online. And then the second one would be attached to that. So once they apply, they get a ping back saying, here's 5 questions, answer these, or in your own words.
One question.
One question.
Just don't at this stage.
Okay.
You know, don't deselect too many people too soon, because if you give them too much to do, you haven't sold them KJV yet. So all they could decide on is, you know, do they want to come from you based on your ad? So you might, some people go, fucking hell, you know, I've got 3 job interviews, don't know who this KJV are, and he's asked me to do all this bloody homework. Well, you know, you can do that later on once you've actually sat in front of them and said, this is who we are, this is where we're going to go, this is what we get. Oh wow, you're a sort of person and a company I want to work for. Yeah, I'll do 5 questions now. The first one is purely, can you read simple can you follow simple instructions, you know, and give me, and I'm not really bothered about what you say. Yeah, the first one is, do you want this enough to do one simple task?
So the questions they don't need to be big questions with like open-ended 500-word answers. They could just be, do you have a driver's license? Have you got a site experience? Simple things like that. Yes or no answers. Sort of
I wouldn't put things down that are obvious from a CV, because that then sends to me, I'd say, well, I've sent you my CV, you know, and now you're asking me questions from my CV. You know, I'd have some things a little bit more around attitude, you know. So, you know, thank you very much for applying for the job. You know, what was it about the job that appealed to you the most? Oh shit.
Okay.
I don't know what the job was. I just sent out a CV. Oh fuck, I ain't doing that. It's purely just
Yeah.
to deselect those people that are tire kickers.
Okay, that's good. And so then it's not me who has to select or deselect there, it's they'll do that themselves.
They'll deselect themselves.
Okay, and then the next stage is the Zoom group call.
Yep.
So schedule that in. Schedule it to my time, not their time, because my time's my time.
Set it to your time, but be aware that they're already in jobs or they're doing other things. So I tend to do it, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, where they can leave early, get home and be present. It does depend on what role you're doing. Sometimes it's better to do it midday or early morning, but sort of an early evening generally works quite well.
Yeah, probably be like 5:30 for me, or 5:30. And what would be a good number, like an average number of people to be in that group? Because what if I apply and is like, because it's quite a general job, there might be 100 people applying for it.
Okay.
And what happens if there's 50 people who still click the question and answer? And I do a Zoom call with 50 people?
Well, of the people that will answer, and you'll say thank you very much, the next phase is to do, I used to call it a group interview. That tend to put people off, so we're doing I'm doing an introductory Zoom call to give you a bit more detail on the role and KJV. Okay.
And then again, that'll be another sort of deselection thing.
Half the people won't turn up for that.
Okay. So let's say I've got 10 people in the room on Zoom.
Yep.
How does that, what's the structure to that? Hi, I'm Gary. Spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes explaining the company and explaining what I'm looking for.
Yep.
So maybe 5 and 5, because there's 2 different things there.
I'd say up to 15, 20 minutes is your time slot. Now that's a long time. If you think about, but basically it's a little bit like your BNI 10-minute. Okay, this is what KJV is. This is the work we do. This is what I'm looking for. This is the role that I'm looking for. A few slides if you want, but not death by PowerPoint. Because the other thing is you're trying to get across your character, because they're coming to work for you. They want to know who they're working for. Okay. And then after you've done that, I generally say with a bit of a smile, so look, I appreciate that I'm probably not, the sort of person that everyone wants to work for. Yeah. And therefore, if you really don't like what you've seen and you really don't think you can work with me, that's fine. Just, I'm quite happy if you just drop the call now. Now, hopefully, there'll be at least one person that stays behind. But if they don't, it's still okay.
I'll be crying myself to sleep that night if no one stays. They hate me. How honest should I be in that? Because I'm very black and white, and I've realized this, and it's been 37 years and I'm still journeying to try not to see these colors in the middle, and I really still struggle. So from when I started with KJV Group, I was like, yeah, we can be mates. You can work for me. We'll be mates. We'll kind of have a cool time and do a bit of work. We'll make some money from it and it'll be great. So now I'm like, you're not going to be my mate. You're my worker. Get on with your work. I'll pay you for it. Go home. Job done. I don't want to hear about your life outside of work. I'm not going to share my life outside of work. And I'm just like, I don't know where should I draw the line on that? Because the bottom line for that to me is, and Rad said it, he said, you're too nice, you're too soft. And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, but I don't want to not be soft or too nice. I will be nice in my normal life. I'm really nice. But in my business life, I have to be a bit more firm. And well, you're not my mate, you're my worker. So ordinarily, I wouldn't go out with you. I wouldn't say, let's go to the pub together. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a worker.
Then focus on the role. You're selling the role and saying, look, what I'm looking for here is somebody who does this. Starts at work on time, is clean, gets the job done, has an attention to detail that fits, what I need, and in response to that, this is what you get. I'll pay you well, I'll look after you,
So don't divert, don't get pally with them.
No, it's just you're selling. You're selling the company, you're selling the role, and you're sort of, it's a balance of, don't sell them something that isn't there. Be honest. Look, I've been doing this for a few years. I'm looking to build this. At the moment, it's just me, but my goal is to have a number of people building this up over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the one person who goes, that sounds like good fun. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
Oh. Well, the kids these days will be like, oh, he sounds like a hard nut, and that sounds like a tough lot of work.
Then you want them to hang up after that 10 minutes, because there's no point in employing them, because they'll last 5 minutes.
That's true. That is true.
I'd rather have nobody at the end of that call than somebody who was going to fail within 3 months.
Yeah. Don't get pally with him. I've actually written that down. I don't get pally with him. Concentrate on the role.
That's why the group initially works, because you can't be pally with 5 people on a call. You'll just say, right, okay, so now it's down to you. Tell me a little bit about you, and you can repeat the question you've asked, but might be another question. So what experience, to give me a bit of background of your experience that you think is relevant to this role as I've just described it. And that will be basically then giving you a 5-minute summation of their CV, but relevant to what you're doing.
So in that call, I've just done 5 minutes on what the company is, where it's going. This is how it's set up. 5 minutes on the position, not getting pally. And then what comes next? Do I go around the group and say 2 to 3 minutes, tell me who you are?
Next thing would be any questions. Does anybody want to ask me something about the role and about KJV? Because the beauty with this is one person asks, the other people hear, so you're not repeating yourself.
Okay, and is there at any point, do I go around the circle and say, do you want to introduce yourself or something?
So look, if what I've told you, you still are interested in this role, now just like 5 minutes. And if you've got 50 people on the call, you'll have to say, right, you've got 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, tell me what is it that you bring to KJV.
Yeah.
Just make sure you record it, because you'll never remember what they say. And
yeah, it's 50 people. See, my natural instinct would take the funny guy, but then I don't necessarily want the funny guy to work for me, because it might be too funny that he doesn't do any work.
But you're not recruiting from this point, Gary. This is a deselection process.
That's true.
You're not selecting them at no point are you selecting them until the end. They're deselecting themselves. So all they've got to do is pass the test. Are you somebody that I think I can work with? If you're the funny guy, great, I can work with funny guys. If you're the quiet one, can I work with a quiet person? Yes, I can. I've probably got a few more questions I need to ask you, though. So you're only deselecting those people that really just, no way am I going to work with that person, or no.
Okay. So everyone's done their 2 minutes about, go around the group and ask in 2 minutes, tell me a bit about yourself.
Yep.
Everyone's told me 2 minutes about them. Let's say there's 5 people. Everyone's told me 2 minutes about themselves. That's 10 minutes odd. What do I do after that?
So thank you very much.
Nice. That's
great. So what I'll be doing now is having a think about who I bring forward to the interview stage, and I'll let you know within 24 hours.
okay.
And then you've got that, at that point, you then say, right, who do I definitely not want to see? I'm not going to waste my time with. And you're looking to reduce that down then to your 2 or 3. If you've got 5, great, you've got 5.
Okay.
At this point, you can now look at the CV and go, right, so now let's look what I saw to what's on the CV and see if there's anything in the CV that says yes or no. But by this stage, you'll be pretty clear that you're looking for the best of the best. So the best 3 in that group were these 3, hands down. The CVs back that up. Right, they're the 3 people I'm going to now interview one-to-one.
Okay. So realistically, that call, if it's, let's say 5 people, 2 minutes each, 5 minutes on a company, 5 minutes on a position, that call's not going to take longer than half an hour.
It'll be an hour.
You think so?
Yeah.
With a chit chat and
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then at the end of that, after everyone's done their 2 minutes, say thanks for sharing, guys. That's great news. Does anyone have any other final questions before we wrap up? And then I'll be in touch within 24 hours, did you say? So in wrapping up.
And every person that you say no to, you write and say, yeah, really sorry, but at this stage you're not quite what the fit for the organization. Wish you well and every success in the future. Because you don't know which ones of those are going to be, might come back to you in 6 months' time, or might be clients of yours in the future. And the worst thing, if you've ever gone for a job, the worst thing ever is you don't hear anything. So everybody would like to be told, that they weren't successful, rather than, well, I went for that job, 2 weeks ago and I've not heard anything.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've done that. Yeah. Okay. So I'll get in touch within 24 hours and then obviously have a letter template, I'm guessing, because I wouldn't have a clue what to write in that other than you're not good enough and I don't want to break people. Or
just thank you very much for for your attendance at the interview. Unfortunately, you weren't quite the person, quite the fit at this stage, but I wish you well for the future.
Okay.
Just something that is fairly generic, fairly bland.
So it doesn't need to be a 6-page essay of all the reasons.
Just not a letter, just an email.
Courtesy email, just say you weren't successful. I wish you all the best, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other email will be great news. You've made it to the next stages.
Yeah.
What is the next stage?
So next stage would be a face-to-face interview. But I'd like to sort of call you in for a one-on-one interview.
How many of those should I have? Let's say I had 50 people in that Zoom room. How many should I have face-to-face on like roughly maybe 5, 10? Don't know.
How many interviews do you want to do?
None. So I've not done any.
Do you want to do as few as possible?
Yeah.
I mean, if out of the 50 people, only one stands out, do one interview.
That's true. That's true.
So that's the beauty of doing it this way. You've already seen them. You should already be in a position where they've deselected and you've deselected down to maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 1. You've got to just think each one of these interviews is going to take now an hour of your time.
Okay.
And you might even find that when you do ask them, they say no, thank you. I've already got another job. So you want to have 3 or 4 on your list, but be interviewing 1 to 3, something like that.
Okay.
But if you've got 4 fantastic people, then interview 4 people. Yeah. Because you can always say, look, you were brilliant, but I've only got 1 role at the moment. Can I keep in touch with you in 6 months' time when the next role comes up, which it will? Is it all right if I give you a call, and if you're available, come and work for me then?
Okay.
I've had companies, bigger companies, more Megan, probably your size, where we've interviewed for 1 role, and 2 of the people, there was 3 people that we interviewed. There was only 1 role, but the other 2 were so good, we found them other roles in the company. We thought, actually, you're not particularly great for this role, but you'd be brilliant over here. We weren't even interviewing for that at this stage, but you're so bloody good, we'll make a role for you.
Okay.
But if not, look, can I keep your details? And when a new role comes up, is it okay if I just text you, and if it's not working out where you currently are, then please come back.
Yeah. Okay. So don't try to burn any bridges. Just be as nice and straightforward as you can.
Don't forget, you're a talent scout. You're looking for talent. If you find it and you can't take it on yet, then keep in touch with it, because at some time in the future, it would be great to know that, there's old Fred there. I saw him 3 years ago. He's got 3 years more experience now. I'll give him a call, see how he's doing. Fred, interviewed you 3 years ago, loved you then, didn't have a position for you. You fancy a role now?
Okay.
I
Yeah,
might say no, but
sure. Okay. Then that's fine. And face-to-face interview, just ask them scenarios and just get to know a bit more of the character, go through their CV, and then maybe show them a bit of the company internally, like as in, here's the app, here's what we'd be doing, here's the CRM, and just not without going into like the details, but just showing them more of the structure of how it would work. Would that be oversharing, or just?
Again, it depends. I think you take that by ear. So if you've got lots of people to see, then don't go into too much detail at that stage, because they haven't accepted it yet. You don't want to give all how you run the business. It's purely about, look, this is what I saw on Zoom. I want to know the true you. Do you fit with your CV? Yes, you do. You can always have another interview after that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds, if you get into that level, that's more about, I've accepted the role now, I'm going to invest some time in you, understanding the systems, etc.
Yeah. Because by then I'll be up and running on Monday, and so I'll show them this is how your work will come through. There's a project manager. It'll have at least 2 weeks worth of work in advance on the system. So you'll know what you're doing this week, you'll know what you're doing next week, and it will keep updating itself as you go. So the work will always be lined up, and they'll always know what they're doing the following week coming. Because I know like Rad was a little bit nervous about that, because he'd just turn up and he wouldn't know what he's doing, and he's like, I need to have some sort of idea of what I'm doing. Which it's good though, because if I'm going to buy an employee kit like painter's whites and then normal clothing, I need them to know that they're doing painting next week. So wear your whites, because if you're doing white painting, you don't wear black trousers, because you just get them covered in it. So that's, it's that kind of thing that I need to think about as well. Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and let you carry on. But thank you. That I tell you, I've got a 1.5 notes from that. That is the number 1 reason why I've not employed someone properly through this whole interview stage, because I don't know what the interview looks like. And if I'm meant to be hosting it and I don't know what it meant to look like, I'm going to look like a right dumbass, basically, in front of 50 possible people. And they're going to go like, oh, that mush, he doesn't know what he's on about, eh? And I don't want that. So that was my fear about it. So now thank you. I'm going to shut up. I am going to be driving from past, so I will still be here in 15 minutes time, but it's just I'll go back to driving mode, but I'll be listening to you in my headphones. So it's just to give you a heads up. So I've got to go drive a telehandler.
Cool. Megan, any questions on recruitment as we've?
Yeah, we need to employ a customer service person. Finally, getting someone to take over my role as customer service. Do you think that format will fit for us, like the whole Zoom call thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, I think it applies for any role that you go for. You know, you tweak it slightly. Yeah, if you think a certain type of person, you know, comes at different ways, but the process of advert, get them to do something, group interview on Zoom, and then deselect that way. Just, we've done it. We used to do it slightly differently in the old days, but Zoom just makes life so much easier. And there's less excuses of not turning up. Oh, I can't make 6 o'clock on a Wednesday because I've got to pick up the kids. It's an hour of your time. If you're not interested in this job enough to give up an hour of your time on this day, then it's probably not for you. Yeah,
because we advertised for a picker and packer role, and we got sort of 5 CVs through, and they weren't very interesting. They didn't seem suitable. We only interviewed one person, so I'm just.
But again,
how many people?
Picker and packer. How much experience do you really need for a picker and packer?
Not a lot, really.
Not a lot. So that's why I think it's dangerous to go from a CV. I'd much rather sort of get them to deselect, and are you really interested in this picker packer role? And then do a quick Zoom. That sort of role could be half an hour on Zoom. So you can actually see them face to face for 5 minutes. If at the end of that you go, no, they're all crap, then fine. But I just think trying to understand who people are from a CV is just impossible. I've got it wrong so many times. Read this, fantastic CV. You get, what? Hang on a minute, this is your CV and this is the person. It's like, and likewise for the lower end jobs, they're not great at writing CVs. I've got brilliant people who are dyslexic. They're scared of doing a CV.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
And picker packers, I would say for the interview, you don't need to do a one-on-one interview. You could do actually a group face-to-face interview. So come on in, I'm going to show you around the factory, show you what goes on, and you could probably do 2 or 3 at the same time. Because again, the one-to-one is more, I need to explore your experience to know whether you can do it. Pick and packing, my grand could have done pick and packing. It's, can you identify things? And maybe for them to get them to do a little skills test, right? Here's 5 things, go and pick and pack it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that then brings us on to, the 6 keys. So whenever we have an issue with our team, so if our team are not performing, that we're not getting what we want out of them, then always come back to these 6 key things, and you've got to identify where's it going wrong. So it's generally going to be going wrong in one or more of the 6 areas. So the first thing to ask is, am I providing strong leadership? Am I giving clear instructions, clear directions? Am I actually leading the people I've got? Or have I just plonked them in a seat and let them get on with it and then wonder why they're not performing? Okay. So for this, we need to have clarity around, have I got across the vision, values and purpose of this organization? Where we're going to go? What our core values are? Okay, so back to Gary's point about, there's certain things that the way Gary likes it done, make that really clear, get that written down so they can understand it. The book of the month book, How to Win by Clive Woodward. This book is all about teamship rules. If you want a team to get together, you've got to be able to give the clarity of direction of where they're going to go. Are you delegating to people, or are you abdicating? Have you given enough instruction when you pass things on to people? Are their goals in alignment with your goals? So, if you're trying to get them go this way and they want to go that way, it's never really going to work. Are you self-aware of your own weaknesses? And are you working on developing and improving those? What was the last leadership management book you read? Okay, are you really sort of working on your own? Because leadership, you're not born a great leader. You have to learn it. You have to make mistakes. You have to learn from those mistakes. You have to continue to develop your own skills and find the leadership the way that you do it. And one of those things is DISC. Your own DISC, and DISC is a behavioral profile that identifies you being outgoing, reserved, task focused, or people focused. So talked about this before. These are our dominant drivers. I's are our influencers. S's are our stable, steady people, and C's are our compliant, correct. So powerful, popular, peaceful, perfect. So as a leader, you're going to lead predominantly with your style of DISC. So if you're a D, you'll generally be a high D leader, an I leader. Each one of these has its strengths. You've got to be aware of your weaknesses. Okay, so if you're a D, you're going to tend to be a bit overpowering, over dominant. Okay, so these are your characteristics. Okay, you're going to try and change, fix, and control things, which when it's needed is great. But often, it's not needed, and you become overpowering, and you tend to micromanage people, or you're telling people what to do down that bot, tell people what to, rather than allowing them to work it out for themselves. It's quicker if I do it myself rather than teach you how to do it. If you're an I, are more of an outgoing people person, the way you'll manage is from the front, but you probably lack detail. You won't be sort of telling them how to do it, and therefore you'll sort of wonder why people are doing it a different way to you do it, or they don't actually complete jobs because you're a bit laissez-faire with things. As long as everyone's happy, then we're okay, which is great until something needs to be done by a certain time, and then there's no procedures in place to actually make it happen. If I'm an S leader, I'm going to be a little bit more, let's go back to your point, Gary, about being too nice. I like to support people, not willing to hold people to account. Not be as forceful perhaps as I should be. Okay, if I'm a C, then I'm going to be very much managing by the book. This is where real micromanaging comes in. Actually, I'll do it myself because no one can do it as well as I can do it. So depending on your profile means, you've got to change your style to suit the people you're managing. So if I'm managing a group of I's, I need to be I, but I also need to bring in the bit they're not good at, which is C, and bring in the detail. If I'm D, I'm managing loads of S's, I need to be a little bit more supportive of them, but make sure I'm still providing the direction. If I'm an S, and I'm managing D's, not an easy one, I've got to be quite direct and to the point with them. I can't be wishy-washy with them. C's, managing I's, again, it's a difficult one. But I've got to make sure that they see the purpose of why we're doing this and actually spend some time interacting with them. So you'll get problems in leadership where you've got one up here and one down here. They're complete opposites because they're going to see the world in a completely different way. So one of the things that we need to do, is to do profiles of ourselves and profiles of our team. So if we can see, so here's an organization and we can plot where they are, yeah, and know that, right, we've got, look, this one's quite good because we've got a good balance of profiles across the board. But we do have this weakness up here. You know, we've got a weakness in very analytical and assertive people. So who's going to actually fill that gap if we need that to be a great team? Who's going to sort of, you know, how am I going to manage my C's and S's need managing differently to my I's and D's? Okay, and then we take it down onto an individual level and we use these to actually help us manage people. You know, so here we've got a very high I person. So we need to manage them and understand that if I'm a high C, yeah, so if I'm this type of person, I'm going to struggle a little bit with managing this person. So I've got to get better and learn how to adapt my style, but also bring in what they need, you know, to get the best out of them. Profiling is a really good way to help with your own leadership skills, to understand more about who you are, but also your team and how they interact with each other. Okay, so Megan, when we start on the coaching, this will be one of the things that we'll bring into the team, that we can get everyone sort of, you know, profiles, including, you know, you, Sam, and Nick, so we can see, you know, again, create that awareness through the organisation. Gary, it's something you can bring in, but you know, generally with 1 or 2 employees, you tend to know who you've got, and you sort of want to be recruiting that first person anyway. So you'll have to deal with whatever you decided to go for.
I was going to ask a question there. So like where you're saying to Megan about profiling with the other guys or girls on the team, could I, in the interview stage, say, like give them a picture of say 10 or 15, like that DISC, but just the characteristic words, and say pick 5 or 10 of these, 5 of these words that best describe you, and that kind of would help me filter through to see which one's the DISC, because I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, there's no big sign that says I'm a D above my head. That's a lot of hard work to try to figure out if matey sat over there is an S or something. So would it be like, would that be an okay idea? Or what?
You can do it. What I would say on a, you know,
but just have the word characteristics, not this is a dominant, this is an influence, this is conscientious, steadiness. Have driving, determined, and cautious, calculate. Have like 2 or 3 of each.
Yeah,
and just
I mean, the problem with that is most people have got a bit of each of these in them. So they'll say, well, I am determined, I am, you know, interactive, I'm shy, and I'm careful. Yeah. It doesn't really help you. And that's why you do a test, because it's designed to actually pull this out and create the graphs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
What you can do, the easiest thing to do is when you're doing the Zoom calls and the interviews, is just say, right, am I dealing with an introverted or extroverted person here? So an introverted person thinks before they speak, an extrovert person speaks before they think. And that's generally quite, so if we go to the B&I group, yeah, give me who in the group is an extroverted person?
Brian, based on his shirts.
Right. Okay,
and he's quite loud.
Great. So you know from Brian is an extroverted person. So is Brian a people person or a task-focused person?
Oh, well, he's an estate agent, so he has to be a people person, but he's a people person with an agenda of being task-focused.
What was he before he was a estate agent?
A banker.
A banker. Okay, so therefore, what's he more likely to be?
Introverted and a real numbers guy, sits in front of a computer 8 hours a day.
No, that's not what Brian did.
No, well, he was like top chief executive something of Bank of Ireland, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He sat in the corporate office.
Does Brian make quick decisions? Is he sort of decisive?
No, he's decisive, but he doesn't do quick decisions. It's longer term. He was top, so he was what's the next 10 years plan rather than the next week's plan.
Have you had a one-to-one with Brian?
I have, but we never talked about that.
Okay.
Am I missing something? What was he in a past life?
Brian's a high D all over.
ID, dramatic, dynamic, decisive, demanding. yeah. I would have said he would be a D. Yeah, definitely.
So you meet people, and quite quickly you can say, are you extroverted or introverted? Are you people or are you task focused? And that will generally give you your predominant profile.
Yep.
If they're a little bit of everything, then they're a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so therefore, it's only when you've got a bigger team that you're trying to manage multiple profiles that this becomes a little bit more important in my view. Because I'm if you can imagine here, I'm trying to manage, the S's, the D's, the I's, and sometimes, they're all changing slightly. So it's good to know what their natural adaptive behaviors are. Okay. As you go forwards, you might want to bring in profiling into the recruitment process. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing to do that.
Recording in progress.
Okay, to actually profile people, and generally once you're doing a one-to-one interview, it's good to then do the proper profile, and then it gives you another form of questions to ask. So you said you were decisive, making decisions and speaking your mind, yet your profile says you're an introverted, task-focused person. Okay. So number 2 is we've now got to have a common goal. Okay, so we've got to be clear that what the goal is of the company and what the goal is of the individual. So our organization has got to have budgets and targets. Yeah. We've got to understand what individuals' goals are. So there's got to be appraisals that says, right, where do you, Mr. Mrs. Employee, want to be in 3, 4, 5 years' time? How are we helping you achieve your goals through working with us? Okay, and then if we've got teams have got to be aligned to the overall company goals. So the company's got to be going somewhere. The teams have got to understand where they're going within the company, and the individuals have got to know where they are. Okay, more problems arise through lack of alignment in goals than I think most other things. Because if people are given a clear goal of what they want to achieve, they can then go for it. If they're not actually doing what you want them to do, it's generally because they don't know what they're meant to be doing. So I akin this to a game of football. If no one knows what the goal of football is, then you have loads of people sitting on a football pitch making daisy chains, and you're trying to motivate them, and they're going, well, no one's told me what to do, so I'll just do whatever comes easy. Okay. So we've got to have goals of what we're actually trying to achieve. And alongside that, if we're having goals, we've got to then have performance indicators. So we've got to know what the numbers are in order to identify our progress towards achieving those goals. So leading KPIs are activity-based KPIs. So we do a lot of this in the finance workshop, if you remember. Lagging is the result. So I do this, I get this. And if you think about, go back to our motivation, I said you can't motivate people. You can't physically motivate them. What you can do is create an environment in which they can motivate themselves. So if you think about sport, let's say temping bowling, a temping bowling alley does not motivate somebody to play temping bowls really well. But what it does, it creates an environment in which you can motivate yourself. So Megan, give me some things in a bowling alley that would motivate you to play 10-pin bowling, if you've ever played 10-pin bowling? Oh, you're on mute, Megan.
Things in a bowling alley.
Yeah.
I don't know, surely you're there to bowl.
Just a good night out or event with friends normally?
Yeah, so there's people around you that are playing the same game, so that
Right,
would be a
social.
motivator. So there's a bit of competition between people.
Yeah.
Is the goal of 10-pin bowling quite easy to understand?
Yeah.
Do you need to read 15 pages of rule books to understand the rules of 10-pin bowling?
No.
Okay, so the goal is nice and simple. The rules are nice and simple. Yeah. And is it something that, as soon as you've rolled the ball, you can pretty much instantaneously know how well you've done?
Yeah.
So the environment is geared to give you what you need to motivate yourself in order to get better and play the game.
Okay.
Okay, so all games are designed that way, that they don't motivate you. They don't come in and sort of G you up and poke you with a stick, but the environment is there to allow you to motivate yourself. But only if I take my Jane to 10-pin bowling, and she's not motivated because she doesn't see the point in the game and she doesn't want to play it. So no matter what I do to motivate her to play 10-pin bowling, I could pay her money to go and play 10-pin bowling. She'll do it, yeah, if she's been paid money to do it, but she won't enjoy it, and she won't give her her best to actually play it. So there's no point in playing the game. Okay, so we've got to be prepared that we create the environment, but if somebody isn't willing to be motivated in the environment we've created, they shouldn't be playing the game. And we've got to, for their own sake and our sake, we've got to get them out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. The third one then is, once we've got the goal, is to have a clear action plan. So what is it that we need to do? And that really comes back to, what our 90-day plan is. So where are we going to go? What are we trying to do? And then 7-day targets and daily reviews. So, we plan they always say, you can't plan a week until you can plan a day. You can't plan a day until you can plan an hour. Okay, so we've got to be able to plan, each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year. If we can do that, then everyone knows what they should be doing, and then that allows us to provide some accountability along the way as well. Again, we want above the line behavior, so we want ownership, accountability, responsibility. But if we don't have goals, if we don't have measurements, and we don't have plans, then how can we have ownership, accountability, responsibility? All we're gonna then drive is blame, excuses, and denial. Okay, so if our team are not performing, are we providing strong leadership? Have we got clear goals? Have we got a plan? The fourth one is what I think is the most important, which is the rules of the game. So have we got a clear culture in our organization based on strong values? So, we go back to vision, values, and purpose. Have we created a really compelling culture? Do we have an organization chart of responsibilities? Who does what? The roles within that and what their responsibilities are, and have we got the systems and processes that people should be following? Okay, and if we've got all of those in place, then go back to Gary's point about being tough. We don't have to be tough. We just have to hold the rule book up and say, look, when you came here to work, we all agreed we play by these rules. Yeah. You're not playing by these rules? It's like Monopoly, you know. I don't have to explain the rules, because look, if you're doing that, look, read the rule book. We agree to play this game based on the rules of Monopoly. You go 10-pin bowling, you agree to play the rules of 10-pin bowling. You don't walk down the middle, yeah, and kick all the pins over and go strike. Now, some people will bend the rules because they see that as the quickest way to achieve the goal. Okay, so it's a little bit like, you know, playing golf. You know, the goal of golf is to get the ball in a hole in the fewest number of shots as possible. And therefore, there's some people that, if they're in a bad lie, will move the ball out of that bad lie to make it easier for them to achieve their goal. So if your rules aren't there and people try things to achieve the goals, don't be surprised. Okay, if you've set the rules out and you've explained what the rules are and people still don't do it, then you've got to ask your question, well, why would you do that? But if you don't bring the rules up, yeah, then people basically, if you don't hold somebody to account for the rules, it's basically saying to them that it's okay to ignore them. Okay, so it's not about being tough, it's about being fair. You know, and being clear and saying, look, these are the rules that we said that we're going to abide by. Yeah, if you want to play the game, you play by the rules. If you don't want to play the game, then fine, don't play the game. Go somewhere else. Now, if you can do that at the outset, you know, at the job interview, and certainly at the induction period, that before you come and work here, I just need to explain these are the non-negotiables. Yeah, if you break one of these, we'll be having serious words. And if you don't want to abide by these, then please don't come and work here. Yeah, and I would probably bring some of the key ones up early on. You know, a bit like for me, you know, hard work is one of my core values that, you know, I've always had come from a family that is, you know, worked hard to get things done. So if somebody comes in and I'll say, look, if you don't believe in hard work, then don't come and work for me. Yeah, if you believe in knocking off at 5 o'clock on time, you know, and a job's half done, then don't come and work for me. You know, you stay here and you work until it's done. I'll pay for it. It's not a problem with that, but those are my non-negotiables. If you want a 9 to 5 and finish at 5 o'clock on the dot, then go and work for somebody else, because, you know, I'm setting the bar so high that you're never going to achieve it, and therefore we're going to fall out at some stage. So if there are some real key ones, get it across as early as you can, because it's better for them to say, no, I don't want to work under your rules, and lose them on day one, than it is to put a lot of effort into them and lose them in a year or 2 years' time, because they just think it's nagging. Yeah, if you play Monopoly and think that every time you go past go, you collect more than £200, yeah, then you're going to, yeah, I'm going to piss you off because I'm going to say you can only collect £200, or you're going to piss me off because you're going to be collecting more than £200. So once we've got the rules of the game, then we can support risk taking. Now it's down to you. Now I want you to try things. I want you to put in, you know, a little bit more. I've got to be prepared to delegate to you. Yeah, I've got to be prepared to invest in your personal development. You know, put you on courses. Yeah, train you up. Okay, I've got to be able to, you know, motivation technique. I might take that out actually. You know, it was more about encouraging you to try things, you know, not keep coming back to me asking for permission. What's the worst that can happen if you try this? Great, well then go and do it. Yeah, as long as it's living to the values of the company, you know, you're abiding by the rules and you're working towards the common goal, then what really can go wrong? Okay, and you've got to decide what your coaching style is. You know, how much coaching do they need? Do they need telling? Do they need supporting? Do they need delegating to? Sometimes, you know, you delegate to them too soon, and therefore you've got to come back in and start supporting them. And then the final one is 100% involvement inclusion. So this is all about communication. If you're a bigger organization, it's about team meetings and newsletters, social events, rewards, and a little thing I called the WIFL, which stands for what I feel like expressing. So it's a way to actually get people to open up before a meeting that says, you know, what I feel like expressing is on what's ever on your mind. Because everybody comes to a meeting with something else on their mind. But the big part of 100% inclusion is communication, that everyone's aware of the journey that we're on and we've got feedback. You know, we know what's happening, what's going well, what's not going well. Any questions around those 6 keys?
What did WIFL stand for again?
What I feel like expressing. Okay, so if I said to you, Megan, you know, before a meeting, so Megan, what's on your mind? What do you feel like expressing? Gives you an open invitation just to talk about what's on your mind. You might say, you know, I've had a really shit day, you know, and everything is a pain in the arse. I don't want to be here. Okay, fine. Thanks for sharing. You know, now I know. Now I can make a decision whether this is the right time to have this meeting or we should delay it and do something else. Whereas if I didn't ask that question, I'd go plowing into a meeting where you didn't want to be there and you weren't going to, you know, give 100%. Okay, and if you take that point there on board and you think about where teams go wrong, you know, it can go wrong because no one's really paying attention. We're not getting the results that we want. Okay, things aren't actually happening. The results we're not getting is not because of the results, it's because there's no accountability. We're not holding each other to account. If I say I'm going to do something and achieve something, then I want to be sure that I'm going to give it my best shot. Accountability is generally not because there's a lack of accountability, it's because there's a lack of commitment. People say they're going to do something, but they don't really mean it. Okay, because if I say I'm going to do something, I don't really mean it, then, and you start to hold me accountable to it, then I'll come up with blame, excuses, and denial. And we'll never get the results that we're looking for. And you've got to ask, well, why would I not commit to something that I say that I'm going to do? Well, the reason I do that is because I fear conflict. If I say that I'm not going to do it, you're going to tell me off, or you're going to shout at me, or, you know, I'm going to let you down. So I'll accept I'm going to do it. I'm not really committed to it, and therefore, when I'm held accountable, I'll have slippery shoulders, and therefore we don't get the results. So why is it we fear conflict? And the guy that came up with this, Patrick Lencioni, he said, the main reason teams fail is because there's a lack of trust. If inherently the team does not trust each other and it doesn't trust the organization in which it's working, yeah, it will always fear conflict. There will be no commitment, there'll be no accountability, and therefore you'll get no results. So everything we do in that 6 keys to a winning team is to ensure that we build trust between ourselves and the team and us and the team between each other. Because if we look at the organization, and certainly as a business grows, we've got more departments. If those departments don't implicitly trust each other, then the organization will never get to where it needs to be. Okay. So Megan, if you looked at those 5 things and looked at your organization, where would you say that you potentially were struggling the most?
Well, I'd say probably I think there's definitely an absence of trust, so I could sort of relate to all of those, because obviously that being the most important one. Lack of trust that people doing their jobs to a good enough standard.
Yeah, and certainly with family businesses, what we find is trust is actually quite strong, but the fear of conflict.
Yeah,
we don't hold each other to account because it's my brother, it's my father, my daughter, my son. It's this one in family business is always tough. It's not necessarily because there's a lack of trust.
I'd say between us family members, there's that fear of conflict, and then between us family members and non-family members, there's that absence of trust.
Yeah, and there certainly can be where it's a tight-knit family and you've got non-family members, that trust can be quite hard. And also, it doesn't have to be family members, it could be people that have been in the organisation 10 years and you've got new people coming in. There'd be a lack of trust there. Between sales departments and operations departments, there's a lack of trust. Between finance, and this is what, as a managing director, you've got to manage, is all of the different relationships that are going on in the organisation. Okay. So homework for you is think about, are there any limiting beliefs around building a team? Okay, if there are, then start to visualize what your perfect team will look like. If you're struggling with that, read books on it. There's some really great team building books out there, and start thinking, if we were a sports team, what sort of sports team would we look like? How would we behave as a great sports team? So that's why books like Clive Woodward's book is so good, because he managed to take a team into, over a period of 8 years, I think, into a world-class team. It took him 8 years. Don't forget, it took him 8 years to do that, and the only thing he had to do was build a team. Okay, and they say 10,000 hours is 5 years of uninterrupted effort. So if you think that you're going to suddenly create a great team overnight and you're only going to do an hour a week on it, if you do, it'll be pure by luck. So it's got to be a dedication to do that within your organisation over the next 10 years. Think about DISC profiles, and again, so we can do that later for you, Megan. Put the team through, put through the process, and then maybe look at the 6 keys. So, leadership, common goal, plans, rules of the game. Gary, for you, rules of the game for me would be number 1. Is you've got to get that down, and at that interview stage, look, I'm looking for somebody who's willing to play this game to achieve this within these rules. If you want to play the game on that basis, then please, stay on the call. If you don't, that's fine. Then I wish you well. Okay, because you want to set the bar, as you go through the recruitment process, you're setting the bar a little bit higher and getting them to jump up each level. The ones that are left are the ones that are willing to do it. If you set the bar too high too soon, no one will actually make it. Good. Any final questions?
Can you recommend any good leadership books or teamwork, team building?
A really good one to start is actually Brad's book, Instant Team,
Okay.
which will talk more about the 6 keys, and the talks about disprofiling in there and the recruitment process. That's a really good one to start. After
Can we
that,
order those through you?
you can. I'll pick one up on Friday, and then I'll bring it with me on. I've got them in the office. I'll bring it with me on Monday. Yep. After that, I think it probably needs to be a little bit more specific on which area. So think about what we've talked about there. Is there, Patrick Lencioni's book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is really good, where teams go wrong. And then you've got books like Brian Tracy's Ken Blanchard writes some really good. So all of Ken Blanchard's books, 1 Minute Manager, Managing by Values, they're really good, simple reads. Okay, but there's probably more books written on leadership and team building than any other business book, so you're not short of content. And I suppose the other one I would say is a good, definitely on the list, is Good to Great by Jim Collins. That's a good one to get on audio and listen to. It's quite a long book. Okay. Good. Any questions, Gary? You're good? Fab. Okay. Well, look. Today we took a little slightly different. I spent a bit more time on recruitment today than perhaps I would. That's why every one of these is slightly different, because we can hone in on a particular area in a bit more detail. So be good to see what you come up with, Gary, and yeah, good luck in the team building. So and I'll see you on Monday, Megan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See you Monday.
Yeah. For now.
Cool. Thanks, Kevin.